Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Megacraft Iceberg. This is definitely one of the spookiest, scariest videos I've ever done. It's very dark and mysterious. As you can see, I have the proper lighting for this to go along with it. But yeah, this is definitely going to be the darkest video I've ever done. There's a lot of horrifying stuff on this iceberg. We're talking gruesome murders, we're talking unsolved disappearances, a whole lot of blood and gore. This is going to be this is definitely the darkest video I've ever done. No, but in all actuality, this is the official Megacraft Iceberg. I've been into iceberg videos lately, and so I thought I would do one for Megacraft. Me and Vicente actually came up with this. So this is a dual effort between me and him. I'm the one doing the video, but Vicente and I planned the different levels of the iceberg and what's on them. So if you don't know what an iceberg is, it's basically like a tier list of like events or incidents, or just like facts about a specific topic, and it goes from at the top, the surface is like the most well known, and it goes down to the more obscure and the least well known, the deeper it goes. That's basically what an iceberg is. It's a tier list of most well known to least well known. And I am going to be covering an iceberg for Megacraft. Now this is just the Minecraft server Megacraft. This has got nothing to do with Discord or my channel or anything outside of the Minecraft server itself. This is specifically the Minecraft server of Megacraft that this iceberg is for. So yeah, with that being said, here is, in my opinion, mine and Vicente's opinion, the official Megacraft Iceberg. And everything on here is a real event, okay? This isn't a joke video. This is real events that have happened on the server. Alright, let's go. So I just recorded a whole section, and then I realized I forgot to hit start recording. Idiot moment. The Spruce Boat Incident. The Spruce Boat Incident is definitely the most famous Megacraft event to ever take place. We all know about it to this day. Anyone who's ever been on the server at any point knows about it. There's no topping it. It is definitely the absolute peak of Megacraft events. Everything else doesn't even compare to the pure legend that the Spruce Boat Incident was. So basically, in April 2016, there was a factions war going on the server. It was my faction, the Masters, versus Alan Mixelminer's faction, the Mixel Murderers. And I'm not entirely sure what Alan felt about me at the time, but I absolutely hated his guts. I not only wanted him dead in Minecraft, I wanted him dead in real life too. That's how powerful the hatred was on my part. But one day in mid-April in 2016, for whatever reason, we decided to truce. And he was at my base on the server. Now, this is a survival server. As I said, it was factions. He was at my base, and I think we were just... I don't know what we were doing. We were just talking. And I remember that day, I had had a pretty bad day in real life. And again, not sure what happened in real life, but I'd had a pretty bad day there, and it definitely carried over to how I acted on Minecraft that night. Case in point, Mixelminer decided to betray my trust and steal a spruce boat that I had in one of my chests. It was the only boat that I had in that base. He stole it, took out a piece of flint and steel, and just lit that shit up. He lit it up, tossed it in the fire, and before long, my beloved spruce boat was reduced to ashes. Now, a normal person would probably be, annoyed at his Minecraft spruce boat getting destroyed by someone who he thought he could trust, at least temporarily. I'm not a normal person. I had a complete and total meltdown, not just in Minecraft, but in real life too. In the game, I was typing in all big bold red text, as I often did when I got upset, but in real life I was screaming and crying as well. I was just having a complete and total mental breakdown over my Minecraft spruce boat getting destroyed by Alan Mixelminer. and me and him just got into this big time argument, and there was a bunch of people on the server that night as well, so they saw it, and that's how it became so famous. And I ended up banning Mixelminer for a while because of that, but I actually unbanned him a short time later. But yeah, that is definitely the most famous incident in Megacraft history, simply because of how I reacted. We still joke about it to this day. But yeah. So that was just the tip of the iceberg, the surface level. Everything else from here is, as I said, is going to get less and less known as we go on. We're still at the surface, but everything's in order for less and less known. The Factions War. The Factions War, as I mentioned before, during the Spruce Boat incident, was a war that was going on during the Factions era of Megacraft, which basically lasted from March 2016 up through June 2016. There were few other smaller factions that I honestly don't remember, but the two big ones were my group, the Masters, and Alan's group, the Mixel Murderers. And the Factions War was basically just as it sounds. We were constantly at war with each other because I hated every single little thing about Mixelminer. And again, I don't know how he felt about me. That's how I felt about him, and that's all that mattered to me. We constantly fought each other, my friends, and well, we were kind of all friends, but back then not so much. So people on my side and people on his side didn't like each other. There were a bunch of battles that happened, including a famous one was the Skybox battle, and that happened pretty early on, where me and a few others had built a glass base in the sky. It was made completely out of glass blocks, and Mixelminer decided that he wanted to mess with me, so he started piling up with, he used dirt, and me and Jacob and one other person were firing arrows at him, and we were missing every single shot. We tried to dump lava on him, and that didn't work. He just dodged that. And eventually, I took out a sword and went down to try and kill him. And I had better armor and weapons than he did, and somehow he ended up winning. I blame it on his Wi-Fi at the time, because he had the Wi-Fi of basically a fax machine, and he would just lag every 5 seconds, which gave him a huge advantage because I couldn't hit him at all, and he was able to kill me. And to top it all off, he didn't even grief the base. He just put coarse dirt everywhere. But yeah, that was just one instance. We had multiple other factions battles since then, and it kind of came to an end by not really coming to an end. There was never like a real official end to the Factions War. Like there was no official final battle or no official, victor on either side. It just kind of ended when summer of 2016 came around, and Alan and I stopped being at odds so much. I still found him annoying, but I didn't hate him anymore. I think that has, partially to do with we had gotten to know each other. But yeah, there was no like real official end to the Factions War. So technically speaking, it's still going on because neither of us called it off. But yeah, it is kind of disappointing that there was no finale to it. It just kind of ended, or just kind of died off. But yeah, the 2B2T invasion. So 2B2T is this Anarchy server. In fact, it is the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. And back in 2016, I was a big-time fan of FitMC, who started out as a 2B2T YouTuber, but has since grown into something much bigger than that. But in 2016, he used to do these live streams where he and his fans would come on and raid smaller servers until they eventually, I guess, crashed. And around September 2016, it was in September 2016, he made a tweet one day asking for server IPs for his next server crashing stream. And I gave him Megacraft's IP. If you hear that in my background, my laptop fan sometimes acts up. It'll die out shortly. Anyway, I gave him Megacraft's IP, and that night, him and his hundreds of fans all went on Megacraft at the same time. We were on there, me and my friends, we were expecting it because I told them. They all went on Megacraft at the same time, and within 5 seconds, the server was taken down. Because, you know, if you remember Megacraft, the host it ran on was not that good. It couldn't handle a whole bunch of players, so it just crashed like that. But that was the only time, the one and only time, any big YouTuber came on Megacraft. But I actually got him to do it, so that's a win in my book. Slime Fun. Throughout the Factions War, and in fact before that, in the Dome era from February 2016 all the way through September 2016, I ran this plugin on Megacraft called Slime Fun, and it was basically like mods without it actually being mods. It added a whole bunch of new custom items into the game that I could make with normal items. So, for example, one of my favorites was the grappling hook. You made that with a fishing rod and string and slime balls, I think. The base item that you were able to use to craft all the other items involved slime, hence the name Slime Fun. But it was this really cool plugin, and in fact I think it was Mixelminer that suggested it. And at first I didn't believe him, but then I tried it out on the server, and we all loved it. It was really fun to mess around with, and they had things like jetpacks and, as I said before, grappling hooks. Don't remember what all they had because it was like so much, but honestly, it was pretty fun. It made the server unique, I think. But in June 2016, for whatever reason, the plugin just stopped working. I think I might have updated or whatever, but I couldn't get it to work again. And yeah, I kept it on the server in hopes that maybe one day it would just work again, but it never did. So that was unfortunately the end of Slime Fun, but I enjoyed it while it lasted, and I'm sure other people did too. Maybe if Slime Fun had continued, I never would have, reset the world, and the Anarchy era never would have happened. But hey, it is what it is. The Sky Base. This is something I won't speak that much about because I already mentioned it. Probably my second most famous base in Megacraft history, the Sky Base, was that glass box Sky Base I had mentioned earlier, where that one factions battle with me and Mixelminer took place. The base itself, as I said, was literally a box of glass in the sky. It contained the bare minimum stuff: chests, furnaces, beds, crafting tables. That was it. It didn't last very long because I moved out after Mixelminer put coarse dirt everywhere. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. Waffleman 27 breaking the worlds. Waffleman 27, besides myself, was the first ever player to join Megacraft back in November 2016, the day that I made it. And because of that, I decided to make him... I didn't have staff at that point because I was busy setting it all up, but I decided to make him basically a pseudo-admin. And at that time, I knew basically nothing about running a server and plugins and all that. But I had this plugin called Multiverse. And what Multiverse was a plugin that allowed you to create different worlds on your server besides, like, the three main ones, the overworld, the nether, and the end. You could create multiple different worlds on the server. And Waffleman27, being the absolute genius that he was, thought about planning ahead and having, he first saw Megacraft being like the next big server, to rival the Game Night 999 server, which we had all been on before. He saw it as the next big server, so he thought, he would create a world for, mini games, a world for survival, a creative world. just a bunch of worlds for a bunch of different things. What he failed to realize is Megacraft's host, the server host, was absolute garbage. As I mentioned before, I had the cheapest possible server I could have. It was literally $5 every 3 months. Megacraft was not a powerful server at all. In fact, it crashed very easily, a lot. So that being said, Waffleman27 thought it was a perfect idea to, at the same time, create 9 different worlds on Multiverse. He did. The server crashed, and it wouldn't start back up again. I could not figure out why. I was 13 years old. I went into the files, nothing. Waffleman27 has single-handedly nuked Megacraft. It was dead. It would not restart. And it stayed that way for 2 months. I had actually given up on the server entirely until around January 2016, where I decided to email the host and just randomly ask if there was any possible way to restart Megacraft, because I was going to just, try and refund it and get my money back. But they actually went in and cleared out all the files, and I was able to restart the server again. And so, if I'd never done that, basically Megacraft would have died 2 weeks after it was made in 2015. But yeah, that was another pretty well-known incident, especially to people who were around at that time. And after that day, I never trusted Waffleman27 with anything ever again. The hardcore temples. During summer of 2016, the Prime era, I had a world called Hardcore, and it was basically, the world was in hard mode, and it was just a normal survival world. No plugins, nothing. Just sort of as a fresh start from the madness that was the Factions world. But also at that time, I was obsessed with Zelda, specifically Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker. In fact, I'm pretty sure I had just beaten Wind Waker, which still remains my favorite Zelda game to this day. But anyway, I decided to spice up the hardcore world. I would build temples, dungeons in Minecraft, and try to make them, like mini versions of Zelda temples, Zelda dungeons with puzzles to solve and all that. And I remember there was 8 total. There was a wind temple, there was a fire temple, there was a forest temple, there was a water temple. There was I think an ice tower. I remember that. There was an end tower too, and there was a sand temple, which was the biggest one out of all of them. It was a giant pyramid. And then for the 8th one, there was Herobrine's Castle, which I actually thought was the coolest one out of all of them, because I took the spawn of the hardcore world, which was like this little village with a castle, and I copied and pasted it in a different part of the hardcore world, made it all like run down and abandoned looking, and replaced the castle, which was this small little cobblestone castle, with this massive, tall, evil-looking nether brick castle, and that was Herobrine's Castle. So it was basically like an anti-version of the spawn. But all those temples, I built most of them, but I also had help from various other people. And they were never that long. They consisted of usually parkour sections and small little puzzles. And at the end, you would fight a boss, which I made using using a custom mob generator. And if you kill the boss, it would drop custom loot, custom items that you could get. And looking back, all the items were very OP, overpowered. There was like diamond swords that could basically insta-kill anyone if you got it from defeating a boss. But I thought it was a pretty cool idea, and I enjoyed working on those. In fact, that's honestly what took up most of my time in the hardcore world. The Game Night Invasion. In July 2017, I made a live stream on the Game Night 999 network, exposing the staff for corruption, and as we all know, that ended with me getting my ass permanently banned. But after that stream, I decided to come on Megacraft, and a few people on game night, or well, actually a lot more than a few people on game night who had been watching that stream, decided to come on Megacraft as well, because I left the IP in the description. And of course, me, Mixelminer, Vicente, Noah, we all had full gear on, iron, diamond armor, and all that. And then suddenly, all these new players were coming on with nothing, and we decided it'd be a great fun time to slaughter them all. So we just camped out around spawn and killed every last game night player we saw, and it was a fun time. And we actually ended up talking to a bunch of them too. And it was just a pretty fun night. That's a night I look back fondly upon. And yeah, we called it the Game Night Invasion because it was a bunch of Game Night players coming onto my server, and me and the boys just killing them. That's how it went. Attempted resurrections. Megacraft officially died in September 2017, the Minecraft server. That's when I officially decided to shut it down for good, due to pretty much at that time all of us kind of had a loss of interest in Minecraft, and there was really no point in me keeping it up. I had, switched the worlds around so many times. But there has been a few instances since then where I attempted to revive it. The first was that December 2017, where I thought, it would be a good idea to try and remake a classic video of mine called How the Pro Stole Christmas. It never ended up happening, but I remember I had bought another server and just called it Megacraft, and it stuck up, and it lasted for about a month. Same thing happened exactly a year later. In December 2018, I once again wanted to remake How the Pro Stole Christmas, but again, it never ended up happening. Too many people canceled on me, but I bought another server and called it Megacraft, and that lasted about a month. The most successful revival was around spring 2019, when Minecraft itself was suddenly getting this huge resurgence. I bought a server again and called it Megacraft. Same host every single time, by the way. And that one actually lasted for about 3 months. I think starting at around March 2019 and lasting through early summer 2019. Maybe a bit beyond that, I'm not sure. But it was just one singular world. We didn't have any ranks or anything. In fact, I whitelisted it. And it was basically just for us to mess around on, just a survival world. And we had a lot of fun. We were all pretty active because, as I said, Minecraft itself was getting revived at that point. But yeah, that was basically all the different revivals of Megacraft. I did have another server since then that I used for another purpose, Mega Heroes and Mastermind 64, but that's not Megacraft, so that's not relevant to this video. Mixelminer being an admin. In spring 2017, I had what was possibly the worst era in Megacraft history, the minigames era. It was my attempt to make the server into a minigame server, and there are multiple reasons that happened. But what's the important part of this entry is that was the one and only time Alan Mixelminer was ever a staff member on Megacraft. I made him an admin on the server, and you know what? For what it's worth, he did a good job. I'll give him that. He did a good job being an admin. That's basically all there is to the entry. After that, Mixelminer was never staff again because I still didn't trust him. But, as I said, for what it's worth, he was a good admin. Corinthius and Lethius. Corinthius and Lethius were two bases that I had. They were both my bases during the early part of the Anarchy era. So September and October 2016. Corinthius came first, and it was a village on an island in a swamp biome. That base ended up getting found and destroyed, so we quickly moved to a snowy mountains biome where we built Lethius, which was a mountain base. That lasted actually less than Corintheus did, because I was streaming building Letheus and I stupidly showed my chords, and within a couple days later we got raided and the base got destroyed. But the reason I mentioned those on this iceberg is because those two names stuck. I would reuse the names Corintheus and Letheus for other projects or places in other projects that I did later on down the road. But as for the bases themselves, as I said, Corintheus was a village in a swamp biome. It was mostly just wooden cobblestone houses. And Letheus, if I recall correctly, in the center of the room, it consisted of one main room with branching rooms off, and it was all dug into the side of a mountain. The main room had a fountain, and then it was just, different bedrooms for me and the three other people that were with me. Nothing really super fancy about the bases. I remember it's actually months later I ended up going back to the ruins of Corintheus, and that was a temporary base of mine when I was solo for a while on Anarchy. But yeah, two pretty famous bases in Megacraft history. The minigames era. So I mentioned this before, but from March 2017 through April 2017, we had what I consider the worst era in Megacraft history, the minigames era. This was my attempt at making the server a minigame server, and we had a total of 2 minigames. Quicksand, definitely the more well-known of the two, because of a certain video of Mixelminer's on his channel, which was, Quicksand was basically like TNT run on Hypixel. You run across a floor made of sand, and as you step on a block it disappears, and last one standing wins, and everyone knows what survival games is. The arenas that we built were pretty cool. They weren't anything super fancy, and in fact we used mostly natural terrain. But I remember I built a couple neat survival games arenas, and then we had a survival world on that too, which was never really used. But yeah, that's basically what the minigames era was. The tunnel era. Alright, I know I said the minigames era was the worst one, but I'm now rethinking that statement. This era was the worst one. Basically, after minigames failed, I decided to make the server just survival again, and that was it. It was just a normal survival world. That was probably one of the lowest points in Megacraft history player number wise, because barely anyone came on. And the reason it's called the tunnel era, because someone I mentioned before, FedMC, was doing a series of streams where he was digging a tunnel through... No, he wasn't digging a tunnel. The tunnel already existed. He was walking through the nether on 2B2T to reach the world border. But he was using speed hacks and things like that, because you're allowed to hack on that server. I thought it'd be a neat idea to dig a tunnel, obviously without using hacks, on Megacraft to the world border. And obviously I dug through the nether, and I made a series of streams about that. And I actually ended up getting killed live on stream, which was a fun time. But I eventually gave up doing that after about a week or so. And after that, I basically, in early June 2017, the tunnel era died, and I reset the world for the last time, and that ushered in summer 2017, which was definitely a much better era than the tunnel and minigames era. Mixelminer permanently leaving the server. In May of 2016, me and Mixelminer one night just got into this huge heated argument, and I remember it being one of the only times during that period that I think I actually managed to make Mixelminer feel bad about something he did. And it basically ended with him saying, you know what, I'm leaving Megacraft permanently. And he actually apologized for everything he did to me, if I recall correctly. and he said, "I'm going to leave the server permanently." And I thought that was true. I genuinely believed him. He literally came back the next day and acted like nothing happened, which I was pissed at the time, but now I find absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, that was the thing that happened. The entire Origin era. The entire Origin era, I think, is not that well known, hence why it's on this layer of the iceberg. As of today, the only people that are left from the Origin era are me and Jacob. That's it. No one else survived. They all were wiped out of existence. Actually, Wither Knight might have been part of that Origin era too, I'm not sure. But basically, the Origin era was the first ever era of Megacraft. It started November 23rd, 2015, and lasted for 2 weeks, and it ended with Waffleman 27 making the 9 worlds and Thanos snapping Megacraft out of existence. But basically, nothing much happened on the Origin era. It was, everyone on there was game night players. The spawn was this kind of crossroads thing, and it was like this X-looking thing in the sky made out of lapis, with teleporters to various parts of the world. We had a PvP arena. We had like a rules section. We had a staff wall. And that was all we really got to do on the Origin era before Waffleman 27 ruined it all. But yeah, that's basically what the Origin era was, but it is definitely the least well-known Megacraft era in history because, as I said, only me, Jacob, and possibly Wither Knight are the only ones who would actually remember it, because we were the only ones on the server that are still around from that time. Mega Mastermind Church. During the Anarchy era in February 2017, I decided I wanted a new base. I was pretty solo at that point, so I decided, you know what, I just want a new base, and there was no real reason I did this. I just thought it would be fun. So I, like I tended to do a lot, just simply went into creative mode, drilled inside of a mountain, and used World Edit to build myself this massive structure inside of a tall mountain. I made it out of quartz, and I built like a giant version of my face on the wall, and I built an altar, and it basically looked like a church dedicated to me, to Mega Mastermind. I built that entirely in creative mode, mostly using World Edit. I didn't really care at all. I did stuff like that a lot when I owned the server, as you'll see later on the iceberg. There's an entry for that. But yeah, I cheated a lot. The Megacraft website. Alright, this is one that you might have all forgotten about. There was a Megacraft website for a while. It was made by a former friend of mine, and it was just I think it was a Wix site. Just a Wix site advertising Megacraft. It was made during summer 2016, I think. Back when I wanted the server to get more popular because of, as I said, that was the Prime era. It was just a website detailing, like, there was a little bit about me, the owner, about all the staff, and about the different features and worlds we had on the server. And it wasn't like a big site or anything, and funnily enough, I myself actually had absolutely nothing to do with the site. It was made and ran entirely by that former friend of mine. But it was fun while it lasted, and it was actually up for a while. It's just it was out of commission after the Prime era until it was eventually deleted almost a year later. But yeah, there was a Megacraft website, and I know I'm equally as shocked. Long Forgotten Players. Oh boy, this one. So, there's the friends I have today, Vicente, Noah, Alan, Jacob, and Blake Crafter, if you count him, and with an I too, I guess. Um, we are the only survivors of Megacraft, basically. There were a bunch of other players that we used to have on the server. Now, there are ones that a lot of us remember, but then there's also long forgotten ones. People from the Origin era and the Dome era, and even some other eras. Now, I'll name some names here. Some long forgotten players include Enderc775, Slenderpig79, Agent Jetman, Random Copping. There was this person called, actually Jacob reminded me of this, Ender Girl Gaming, who apparently he had a friendship with. Those are just to some people, to name a few. I'm not gonna name anyone else because I think, as we get more, recent to today, they're remembered like a lot better. But those are the players who I'm talking about when I said long forgotten players. People who barely ever played the server and then were just never seen again. And those are 5 that I remembered. Mega Brine is another one that I remember. But yeah, just long forgotten players that played on Megacraft for maybe a little bit and were just never seen again, usually in the Origin or the Dome era. And I'm sure there's more, but I honestly can't remember them. Original Factions era hub. So the hub for the Factions era for the longest time was the City Hall building in Mine City, which was the city world that we had at the time. And everyone knows about Mine City. So well known that that's not even on this iceberg. But what I'm betting a lot of people don't remember is the original hub we had for it. Which was basically a quartz building, a small quartz building, and half of it was designed to kind of look like a city street, and at the end you had a portal and that led you into Mine City, and the other half was designed to just look like a grass plain of the overworld, and that was the portal that led you into the Factions world. And as I said, it was very small, but for a short time between the government building being the hub and when we built that giant tree for the Prime era, that little building was the official server hub for Megacraft. The best Mega Mastermind base ever. The best Mega Mastermind base ever, that's an official fact, absolutely no bias, was during the Factions era, from, I think it lasted April through May 2016. Me and the boys, me and the masters, built this large fortress-like structure in the desert. And I remember Crafter had actually designed a bunch of redstone machines that would, we had a cobblestone generator, we had an automatic mining machine. A lot of it was slime fun stuff too. But we had this like massive fortress in the desert, and then we had like another building next to it. I don't remember what it was used for, but it might have been like a storage room or some storage building or something. It was made out of wood, and I said I don't remember what we used it for, but we also had this massive underground mine that actually had full-on minecart tracks, like it went down. And then inside of that, we had this massive, huge underground area where we kept all of our stuff. And we had a bunch of statues around there as well. And one of the things I remember most about that base is that in the courtyard of the fortress, I built these, like, these statues of, it was just like wool blocks with pumpkin heads, but designed to look like little people, and I pretended they were Mixel Miner and other people on his team, and I would just use them for target practice with bows and stuff. But that was hands down the best space I have ever had on that server's history. In fact, I recreated it for a level in Mega Heroes. The parkour world. Alright, so during the Prime era, we all remember the, Mine City world and the hardcore world and the old factions world, which had become the Slime Fun world then. But what a bunch of you don't remember is probably that we had a parkour world too. So in the giant tree hub, when you spawned in, off to the right corner, there was this there was this parkour area, and if you completed the parkour, you would enter this room at the top that had a portal to another world, and that was going to be a world dedicated to parkour courses. And I remember I'd built one, and that was the entire world. I'd built one parkour course for that world, and that was it. I just gave up on it, and I was too lazy to do any more. But I kept it there, and so that was the official parkour world. I don't think anyone even remembers that, except for me and Vicente. So, yeah. The entire staff was corrupt. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but everyone knows that I ran the server like a tyrannical dictator, especially during the Prime era. I was corrupt as hell. I would cheat and stuff all the time, and yeah, that's just how I ran it. But I'm here to set the record straight and say every other staff member is just as guilty as me. Every single staff member during the Prime era at some point blatantly broke the rules and cheated stuff in survival, or went into creative, or just, banned someone for no reason. It happened at some point. Every single person. Besides myself, I'm pretty sure Jacob did it the most. Either Jacob or Cole, they did it the most. But yeah, that's just how we rolled, and obviously I didn't care. If I was doing it, I couldn't dock anyone else for doing it. So yeah, we cheated stuff in all the time. The server was basically a tyrannical dictatorship. That's how Megacraft was ran. It was good for the few, and the many suffered. And frankly, I thought it was a system that worked. The Mine City Mall. During the Prime era, I had started building various, buildings of my own in Mine City, and I let other people do the same. At that point, I was obsessed with dead and abandoned malls, for whatever reason. And in where I lived at the time, there was a dead and abandoned mall right in my city. And so I decided it'd be fun to try and recreate that in Minecraft, in Mine City, but as if it was still alive. And in fact, I had gone to that mall a lot as a much younger kid, so I did it basically completely by memory. And, besides it being a lot smaller than the actual thing, I think I did a pretty good job. It was as I said, much smaller recreation of a real-life mall that I used to go to that was now dead and abandoned. And I put that right in Mine City. And I ended up using that as a filming location for the Game Night Episode 2, which I know, as I said, I'm not going to get into any videos. That's Iceberg for another day. But that was part of Megacraft, because after the filming, I just left it up for people to explore. So yeah. Alright, now we're at the final layer, the very bottom, the abyss of the iceberg. This is the most top secret, most obscure stuff that really no one but me on the server knows, and I genuinely mean that. So first up, we have Megacraft's original purpose. So Megacraft was created, or I created the server, back when I was still a not to brag, but pretty well-known member on the original Game Night 999 network. That's not the... Everyone knows that. That's not the entry. The entry on this iceberg is the original purpose that I created Megacraft for. It was two main purposes. One was I wanted a server of my own, and I had wanted a server on my own years before I ever knew of Game Night's existence. That was one purpose, and I also wanted to meet new people, which I think, you know, I succeeded. I mean, 5 of my best friends I met on Megacraft. So that was one purpose. The other purpose was specifically to steal players away from Game Night. I genuinely don't know why I wanted to do that. I must have been like pissed at the people who ran Game Night or something. But I specifically remember the night I created Megacraft, the night I bought that server's domain. My biggest plan was to take players away from Game Night specifically, and that was the server that I first advertised Megacraft on, and 99% of Megacraft's players came from Game Night. So in a way, I kind of succeeded with that. I successfully stole a few people away from Game Night, but that was its original purpose, or at least one of them. Mysterious screenshots. Okay, this one's gonna sound weird, but just stay with me here. So, it's still on my channel, but if you go back in early 2018 and look at my 2 years of Megacraft screenshots videos, then there's a couple screenshots in there. They're from the Anarchy era. I don't know who they are. It's a base. I don't know who made that base. And in fact, I don't know who took the screenshots, because I have no memory of taking them. I don't know where I got them from. I know that base has to be on Megacraft, and yet I never saw it. I'll show you the screenshots now. I have no idea where this is. I have no idea whose base this is. I have no idea who built this. I have no idea who took these screenshots, because I know I didn't. So I don't know where I got them. I just had them on my old computer, and I transferred them to my current one. If one of you knows who these are, please tell me. But yeah, this has baffled me for a while, and I've never really talked about this. I no idea what this base is, where on the server this is, or who took the screenshots. I just know that they come from early 2017, so it would have been the Anarchy era. Mega Mastermind hacking. Alright guys, this is going to, you might want to sit down for this, because this is going to absolutely blow your minds. This is going to alter your reality. This is going to turn your entire life upside down when you hear this. I, Mega Mastermind, hacked on my own server. Yes, I know. Despite that being my #1 rule in every era to exist, and absolutely no hacking. As I said, me and the entire staff, we would cheat all the time. We would go into creative mode, but hacking, no, that was absolutely forbidden. No one ever dared to do that until I did. As some of you might know, I had an alt account for a while named Shorty McDuff. I didn't pick that name. That was a random name assigned to the fake alt that I got by using a hacked client. That's right, every time I was on the Anarchy server with that alt, and I did it around December 2016, that was me hacking. I straight up used a hacked client to get that alt. So now that you know I am a hacker, I know that is absolutely the worst thing I could possibly do. Cold-blooded murder doesn't even compare to hacking in Minecraft. I have just sent myself to hell for all eternity for that. I have already accepted the consequences of my actions when I did it. I knew what I was getting myself into. I only hope that you can forgive me for this horrible atrocity. The original Mine City. So believe it or not, the Mine City that we all know today, the map anyway, was not the original Mine City. So during the Dome era, in fact, at the tail end of the Dome era in early March 2016, I had gotten the idea to film the Game Night Episode 1, and I wanted it to take place in a city. And at that time, the Dome era consisted of just a normal survival world. So, me and a few other people flew out to a random location, made this giant platform in the sky, and we, using World Edit, we basically hand-built a main street of a city. That was the original Mine City. That's what I had called it, Mine City. That's what it was. That was the OG Mine City, and we filmed half of the Game Night Episode 1 on that city map. And eventually, I decided I liked this and I wanted a bigger city, so we made the decision to end the Dome era and download an already built city world, a map called Lormierville, and we renamed it to Mine City, and that became the current Mine City that was on Megacraft for the longest time. But that wasn't the original Mine City. That one platform in the sky that was designed to look like a city street, that was the original Mine City. If I recall correctly, there was a city hall, there was an apartment building, there was a school, there was a prison, and I think there was a police station as well. And I think there's just a few other random buildings to, blend in. But yeah, that was the OG Mine City. Mega Mastermind's list of IPs. Possibly the least well-known thing on the server in history is Mega Mastermind's list of IPs. That's right. On Megacraft, one positive thing about that host, I know I had trashed it before, but one good thing about the host is that every time a player logged in, I could see their IP address, and it kept a permanent record of every player's IP address that ever logged in. And so, for certain players that I didn't like, and even some players that I did like, in real life, I took a sheet of paper and I took a pen and I hand wrote down a list of IPs of certain players. And in case anything ever happened to them on the server itself, I wrote down in real life a list of people's IP addresses, and at that time I was able to figure out how to find relative locations based on IP addresses, so I was able to do that. I don't know where that list of IPs is today. I lost it years ago. I don't know what became of it. It probably got thrown out. That's probably what happened. But all I'm saying is, in 2016, me was basically was a different person entirely. I kept a list of people's IP addresses that I would sometimes use to pretty accurately guess their real life location. So yeah. Alright, and off the iceberg entirely, at the very, very bottom, the Mariana Trench of the ocean, we have the Mixel Miner Room. The Mixel Miner Room is an urban legend on Megacraft that was relevant around the factions era in 2016. So the legend says that if you went into Mixel Miner's base, which was this like hole in the ground kind of thing in a forest, it was his original base. I ended up destroying it. But if you were to go in there, there was a spot in the ground where you had a chance to literally no-clip through the ground, and you would fall into a secret room in the base. And this room was made up of entirely pictures of Mixel Miner. Wall-to-wall, covered in pictures of Mixel Miner, and floors covered in pictures of him. It was quite literally the Mixel Miner Room. And you would suddenly hear this creepy music start to play, and then you turn around and the Mixel Miner would be standing right there. He'd be covered, except his eyes would be completely black, and he was covered in hyper-realistic blood. And he murdered you immediately. And of course, when you died in the game, you died in real life. And this leads into the theory of Mixel Miner not even being a human being at all, and in fact being a skinwalker. But that's a whole video for another day. So I hope you enjoyed this Megacraft Iceberg. As I said, this was put together by me and Vicente. So a huge thank you to him for helping me out. I'm a history lover. I'm a big time history guy, and really just, you know, looking back on all of these events and the ones that I didn't mention and all the stuff in server history, you know, for being such a small server and having a really short lifespan, just 2 years basically, there was a lot of stuff that happened on Megacraft. I mean, really, this is no pun intended, but this is just a tip of the iceberg of some of the stuff that happened. And this was just some of the more unknown stuff. A lot of the stuff that happened is known, like we all know it, but you know, I do genuinely miss the server, and it was nice to look back and remember all the stuff that happened. As I was talking about it, I was in my mind just remembering it all happening and remembering it all playing out right in front of me. But yeah, for a small server, Megacraft did pretty well. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. I don't know what my next video is going to be, but I'm going to try and upload weekly. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, that's about it for today. I'll see y'all next time.